Today we're going to be taking notes on transformations, which is our next lesson in our geometry unit. So our first transformation that we are going to be talking about is called a translation. So you can see that I underlined and bolded that SL in translation, and that's because that is our little clue word. Our key word for translation to help us remember is slide. So whenever I say that we're going to translate a figure, I'm really sliding that figure along the paper. So we have our first example that I'm going to use to kind of explain what a translation looks like. So this one says translate A, B, C, D to, and this is a new vocabulary word here. After A, you have that apostrophe mark, and when I read that, we say prime. So we're just going to make a little note of that up here. So as I read that, again, it says translate A, B, C, D to A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime. 5 units vertically and -3 units horizontally. So let's go ahead and figure out what that means. So over in our notes column, it says a translation slides a figure the same distance in the same direction. So when we talk about horizontally moving, that's moving from either left or right. I'm going to make a little arrow to remind myself what horizontal means. So if it is a positive number, that's a clue to go right. If it's a negative number, I'm going to go left. Now, when we talk about vertically moving that shape, vertically translating the shape, if it is positive, it's going to be going up. If it is negative, it's going to be sliding down. So again, our example that we're talking about said 5 units vertically and -3 units horizontally. So I'm going to go ahead and first figure out where exactly each one of these points is. So I'm just going to write down their coordinate from where they start at. So A is currently at 1, -4. B is at 4, -4. C is at 4, -2. And D is at 1, -2. And now I'm going to slide my pen across my paper, and I want you to do this with me. So go ahead and start at A. Now remember, it said that I'm going to move 5 units vertically, and since it's a +5, I'm going to go up 5 spaces. So I'm counting that out right now. And then I'm going to go -3 units horizontally, so that's going to be 3 spaces left. And then I can make a new point and label that A prime. So that A apostrophe. Now let's figure out the coordinates for A prime. So right now I have to, from the origin, I would move 2 left and then 1 up. So my coordinate is -2, 1. So let's go ahead and try B together. So again, I'm going to move the exact same distance in the exact same direction. So starting my pen at B, I'm going to move 5 units vertically, so 5 units up, and then 3 units horizontally, and 3 units left, and put another dot, and I'm going to label this B prime. Going a little quicker, from C, same deal. I'm going to go 5 units vertically and -3 horizontally and make my C prime. And then last I have D prime. And let's go ahead and put all of those new coordinates in there. So if I count from the origin, B prime is now at 1, 1. C prime is at 1, 3. And D prime is at -2, 3. And I can connect that dot. So if I look at my paper, if I'm talking about a translation, that means that that little rectangle there should have perfectly slid across my paper. And I can tell that it didn't turn, it didn't get smaller or a different shape. It is the same shape, it just moved along my paper like I slid it across the paper. So I know I did it correctly. So let's go ahead and try our next example. And this one, I'm going to give you a little bit of time now, so I want you to go ahead and pause the video and try out translating the figure 2 units horizontally and -4 units vertically. And we're going to come back and make sure we have it correct. All right, go ahead and take a look at my A prime, B prime, C prime. Make sure you have the right coordinates written. and that you have labeled your new triangle. And now we're going to go ahead and flip it over and take some notes about reflection. So on the back of our note sheet, we are talking about a new transformation called reflection. And again, there's a clue hidden inside that word. So when we see reflection, our little key word that we need to think of is flip. So the FL in reflection is just like the FL in flip. So that's an easy one to remember. So again, we have a picture that we're going to use to help us explain, but let's look at what a reflection means first. So a reflection flips a figure over a line. All new points are the same distance from the line as the originals. So when I talk about a reflection, the first thing that I think of is a mirror. And if you think about standing in front of a full mirror so you can see your entire body, if you back up away from the mirror, your reflection is the same. It looks like it's the same distance from the mirror as you are. If you get closer, your reflection does the same thing. So that's the same thing is going to happen when we reflect images in math. So right here I have a triangle TEI, and I'm going to go ahead and write down the original coordinates right now first before we go ahead and start reflecting. So T is at -5, -1. E is at -1, -1. I is at -5, -3. Now, the big thing about reflecting is that you have to be extra careful where it says it is reflecting. When I say that, I mean what line is going to be kind of like our mirror that we're thinking of. So this time it says we're reflecting TEI over the x-axis. So remember, the x-axis goes horizontally across your paper. So I just highlighted it. And I want you to mark your paper this way as well. So if you have a highlighter or a colored pencil, or somebody near you has a colored pencil, I want you to draw a different color, even a pen is fine. Mark where the x-axis is, because then it's really easy to see how the shape needs to flip. So since my shape is going to flip across the x-axis, let's go ahead and take a look at T first. So right now, T is exactly 1 square below the line. So when I make T prime, it's going to be 1 square above the line that I just highlighted. And its new coordinates, so the new coordinates for T prime are -5, +1 now, because it went into the positive y values. Looking at E, again, 1 space away from the line, so my new point is also going to be 1 space away from the line. And E prime is at -1, +1. And our last point, I, was originally at -5, -3. Now this point was farther away from the line, so I have to count how far. It was 3 away from the line originally, so the new point is also going to be 3 points, or 3 squares away from the line. And that's I prime at -5, +3. Now I can go ahead and connect my dots. So it almost looks like that triangle is looking in the mirror, that line that I highlighted, and that new image that I wrote is kind of like its reflection in the mirror. All right, let's go ahead and try another example. So this time it's the same triangle, but we're going to reflect it over the y-axis, and that makes a huge difference with our answer. So you have to be extra careful what they're saying. So again, I want you to mark the y-axis on your paper. And we're going to go ahead and just copy our original points from above. So T is at -5, -1. E is at -1, -1. And I is at -5, -3. So now my triangle is kind of looking in a different mirror. So it's going to have its reflection in a different spot. So let's go ahead and start with T. Now T is really far away from the mirror, almost as far away as it can get on this graph. So if I count to the line, that is 5 spaces away from that line. So its reflection should also be 5 spaces. So my T prime is going to be way over on the right for this one. And its new coordinates is +5, -1. Okay? Let's go ahead and look at E. Now, E is pretty close to the line still. It's only 1 space away, so E prime is also going to be 1 space away at 1, -1. And then last point, I prime, that's one that's going to be really far away from the line as well. I'm counting it. It looks like it's 5 away. So I prime is going to also be 5 spaces away from the line at 5, -3. So now I can go ahead and connect those dots. I'm just going to fix that -1 right there so it's clear. And then I can go and connect my triangle. So now it's like that triangle flipped over the line. All right, and that is both of our transformations that we're going to learn about this year. So again, make sure that you have all of your points, all of your lines highlighted that I said, and all of your blanks filled in before we start our practice. Okay.